A virtual meeting of the MAG Management Committee is now called to order. We'll go ahead and have staff take a roll call at this time to establish quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Management Committee. I will go down the list of members by member agency. Please unmute and indicate if you are present. Bryant Powell.
I'm here.
Thank you. Charles Montoya. Roger Klingler.
Present.
Thank you. Gary Neese.
Here.
Thank you. Carrie Dyrek. Josh Wright.
Present.
Thank you. Crystal Dykes. Brent Billingsley.
Present.
Thank you. Phil Dorchester. Grady Miller.
Here.
Thank you. Kathy Valenzuela. Kathleen Curley. Rob Bohr.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Kevin Phelps. Julie Cairns.
Here.
Thank you. Jeff Kulaga.
Here.
Thank you. Excuse me. Matthew Williams. Joy Rich.
Here.
Thank you. Nathan Steele. Chris Brady.
Here.
Thank you. Jill Kymack. Jeff Tyne.
Here.
Thank you. Jeff Barton.
Here.
Thank you. Tammy Ryal. Heather Wilkie.
Present.
Thank you. Alexis Tamarin Kinsey.
Here.
Thank you. Jennifer Jack.
Here.
Thank you. Jim Thompson. Mike Frazier.
Here.
Thank you. Reyes Medrano.
Here.
Thank you. Chief Brown. Jean Blackman. Jody Rooney.
Here.
Thank you. And our chair is here. Is there anyone that I missed? Thank you. We have a quorum.
Very good, thank you. And please remember to unmute your device before speaking and mute when you're not speaking to create a positive experience for all attendees. Phone participants, if there are any, should use *6 to mute or unmute and *9 to raise their hand. Item number 2 on our agenda is call to the audience. Members of the public were asked to submit written comments related to this meeting through the MAG website. Comments may be sent at any time leading up to the meeting, but must be received at least 1 hour prior to the posted start time for the meeting. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda or that are on the agenda for discussion and not for action. Do we have any public comments received?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. No public comments were received for the call to the audience or any other item on today's agenda.
Thank you. We'll close item number 2 and move on to item number 3, Executive Director's Report. Executive Director Eric Anderson will now give his report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we can go to the next slide. So we had a number of events in October, all dealing with our friends in Mexico. Had a great, 3 great events. The first one we had was a meet and greet with the new mayor of Hermosillo, Mexico, and some of his staff. Had a great opportunity to talk about the economic development linkages between Arizona and Sonora, and in particular, the great industrial expansion that's happening in Hermosillo. So it was a very good event, and we were invited down next year to visit Hermosillo, Mexico. Go to the next slide. We also had an opportunity to have dinner with the new ambassador from Mexico to the United States. Once again, a great event. You'll see Representative Stanton there, as well as Governor Lewis, Mayor Peterson, Mayor Hermosillo, Mayor Giles. We also had Mayor Ortega from Scottsdale attended, but obviously didn't make the photo. So great event. And I think it really, again, cemented the relationship between Arizona and Mexico. The third event we had, and go to the next slide, was a webinar, Arizona webinar organized by Elsa Belgene of our policy team. Very successful event, had a lot of discussion. We had the former ambassador to Mexico from the United States, Christopher Landau, as well as a number of other representatives from Mexico and the United States. But the interesting thing, we also had participation from Canada through Glenn Williamson and a group out of, I think, Ottawa. So once again, Canada and Mexico are two of our great trading partners for Arizona. And so we had a great discussion on that webinar, and thanks to the policy team for another successful event. The last thing I want to talk about, and go to the next slide, MAG has now become a member of the Institute for Automated Mobility. This is set up by Governor Ducey a couple of years ago. We've actually been participating in the Institute all along, but we formalized our membership recently. So once again, I think there's so much going on in this space. We do have our emerging technology program up and running out in the field. And so this is just a natural extension of what we do here at MAG. So, Mr. Chair, that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And please contact Eric after the meeting if you have any questions about his report. Moving on to agenda item number 4 is the approval of the consent agenda. Items 4A through 4J are all on the consent agenda. Does any member of the management committee have questions or request a presentation on any of those items? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, so moved. This is Grady of Fountain Hills.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chair, this is Roger Buckeye. I second it.
Thank you very much. We have a motion from Mr. Miller and a second from Mr. Klingler. Go ahead, if you will, and call the roll call on a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Management Committee. I will go down the list of members by member agency. Please unmute and indicate how you vote. Bryant Powell.
Yes.
Thank you. Roger Klingler.
Aye.
Thank you. Gary Neese.
Aye.
Thank you. Josh Wright.
Aye.
Thank you. Brent Billingsley.
Aye.
Thank you. Grady Miller.
Aye.
Thank you. Rob Bohr.
Aye.
Thank you. Julie Cairns.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeff Kulaga.
Aye.
Thank you. Joy Rich.
Aye.
Thank you. Chris Brady.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeff Tyne.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeff Barton.
Aye.
Thank you. Heather Wilkie.
Aye.
Thank you. Alexis Tamron Kenzie. Thank you. Jennifer Jack.
Aye.
Thank you. Mike Frazier.
Aye.
Reyes Medrano.
Aye. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you. Jody Rooney. And Mr. Chair, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Okay. Is there anyone that I missed?
This is Mike Frazier. Did you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Ben, this is Ryan Lee with the City of Glendale, sitting in for Kevin Phelps, and I vote aye.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. We now move on to agenda item number 5, It is the MAG fiscal year 2023 Public Safety Answering Point Annual Element / Funding Request and fiscal year 2023-2028 Equipment Program. 911 Administrator Liz Graber will present.
Thank you, Chairman Ching. Wanted to talk about a few things before we go to the budget items, just to give you updates on what's going on in the 911 world in the region. The state has finished and awarded a next generation 911 contract in July, which is a great leap forward for all of us. Basically, they awarded it to a company called Next Gen Communications. This project will create a 911 IP network for all of the PSAPs outside of the Maricopa region. It also allows for the Maricopa region to keep their own, our own 911 network that we have had since 2010. So with these 2 911 networks in the state, once those go live, and we've set a date for July of 2022. Once we go live with these, we will start the process of connecting and interfacing those networks together. Perhaps you've read of 911 outages that have occurred throughout the state, and our goal is to step by step allow the 2 networks to be fallbacks for one another. First, basically shifting the calls from one network to the other in case there's an outage. Then eventually having the calls route to the appropriate PSAP using a different network would be the ultimate goal. This will add great service to not only those citizens and residents within Maricopa region, but for the whole state. So we're happy to be part of that project. For our SENS report, that's our Community Emergency Notification System. We have had 122 launches year to date. We've been setting records the last couple of years. It's not quite what we had in 2020. Year to date in 2020 it was 127, so we're almost there. Mostly we use it for missing children, endangered adults, police incidences, and occasionally there's a fire incident that they request that notification. The platform we use for those reverse notifications is end of life in the next 4 years. So we're preparing to look at what lies ahead. Technology has changed so much since we started this program in 2004. So it's just been getting more streamlined and easier. So we're excited to see what lays ahead, and we'll give a report on that as soon as we're getting ready to move. And text to 911 has been growing as well every year since we installed in April of 2018. We averaged this year a monthly of 750 text sessions. All of our PSAPs get them, Phoenix PD getting the most. So 750 text sessions is more than we did last year, but keep in mind we averaged 250,000 911 calls. So it's not right up to 911 calls, but it is growing, and we have had many successful calls that we were able to provide assistance because the text to 911 feature was there. And then last, we have our budget for MAG fiscal year 2023 for the PSAPs. We asked them for a 6-year forecast so we can plan out what lies ahead. But this year in our fiscal year 2023, we have our biggest project that we have every 6 years, and that's Phoenix PD's upgrade. As they have announced, they are moving to a new building, so we're coordinating with them on being able to install their new equipment with that move. And the other project for that year would be Luke Air Force Base. Luke Air Force Base is smaller, but it requires a unique certification through the Department of Defense for us to put any networking on there. So it's just as complex as any of our other PSAPs. With that information, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Are there any questions or comments from the membership? Hearing none, this item is on the agenda to recommend approval of the MAG fiscal year 2023 PSAP annual element/funding request and the fiscal year 2023 to 2028 equipment program, with the requirement of running the additional call taking working stations requests through the formula that the governance working group is developing. Is there a motion from the membership?
So moved. This is Julian Goodyear.
Brent
Okay.
Billingsley with a second.
Okay, we have a motion from Ms. Cairns and a second from Mr. Billingsley. Is there any discussion of the motion? Hearing no discussion, please take the roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Management Committee. I will go down the list of members by member agency. Please unmute and indicate how you vote. Bryant Powell.
Yes.
Thank you. Robert Klingler.
Roger Klingler, aye.
Gary Neese.
Aye.
Thank you. Josh Wright.
Aye.
Thank you. Brent Billingsley.
Aye.
Thank you. Grady Miller.
Aye.
Thank you. Rob Bohr.
Aye.
Thank you. Ryan Lee.
Aye.
Thank you. Julie Cairns.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeff Kulaga.
Aye.
Thank you. Joy Rich.
Aye.
Thank you. Chris Brady.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeff Tyne.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeff Barton.
Aye.
Thank you. Heather Wilkie.
Aye.
Thank you. Alexis Tamron Kinsey.
Aye.
Thank you. Jennifer Jack.
Aye.
Thank you. Mike Frazier.
Aye.
Thank you. Reyes Medrano.
Aye.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Thank you. Is there anyone that I missed? Thank you. The motion carries.
Thank you very much. We now move on to agenda item 6, which is the draft Momentum 2050 MAG Regional Transportation Plan, draft fiscal year 2022 to 2025 MAG Transportation Improvement Program, and public input report presented by Audra Kester Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of Management Committee. Excited to be with you today on this milestone and delivery for your consideration today, action to adopt the Momentum 2050 MAG Regional Transportation Plan, its companion planning document, the Transportation Improvement Program, and public input report. Next slide. Today's presentation will go through our final stage of the plan development process, which is our air quality conformity analysis and public comment period on these 3 documents, which concluded on October 13th. We'll talk about next steps and then take it to you for recommended action. Next slide. You've become familiar with this schedule outlining the final stages of the plan development process. Our work over the last 2 years has largely been focused on an investment plan to be supported by a continuation or extension of our dedicated half-cent sales tax here in Maricopa County. But now it's time to package those decisions alongside others into these important documents that are federally required. Next slide. As noted, these 2 important federal documents are required for metropolitan planning organizations to develop. So while we step back from our focus into the future and the investment plan that we have adopted earlier this year, we now need to package those decisions alongside others into these required planning documents. The first is the Regional Transportation Plan. This is the document that looks long range out into our future and articulates a vision for how we intend to ensure the efficient movement of people and goods throughout the region. It is required to have at least a 20-year horizon and focuses on regionally significant large capital projects and programs funded through regional resources, inclusive of all federal funding. Our Transportation Improvement Program is a companion document. It is a short-range list of projects. Its horizon year must be at least 4 years, include all regionally significant projects regardless of funding source, and by definition serves as the first 4 years of our regional transportation plan. Both the RTP and TIP must be performance-based, be fiscally constrained. In other words, we can only have projects and programs that we have available revenues associated with. They both must be updated at least every 4 years, although by practice, MAG typically updates both of these documents every couple of years. They both must reflect all sources of funding and programs. So for purposes of today, this regional transportation plan and transportation improvement program include the last 5 years of the Proposition 400 program, the investments articulated for the extension of Proposition 400. Because our planning area also includes Northern Pinal County, we pick up all Pinal County RTA projects, as well as any wholly locally funded regionally significant projects. And of course, both of these documents must be and the projects contained herein must be air quality conformant. Next slide. As part of our air quality conformity process, we take out for public consideration these 3 documents in a final review. We culminate that work by bringing that public feedback through prior to adoption today for your consideration, next week for the Transportation Policy Committee's consideration, culminating December 1st with Regional Council's consideration. We expect a finding of air quality conformity by our federal partners, the Federal Highway Administration and the Federal Transit Administration early in the new year. Next slide. Our public comment period is consistent with MAG's adopted public participation plan. This 30-day public comment period is the final opportunity to provide feedback on these draft documents. We issued notice in the Arizona Republic, sent e-blasts to over 15,000 stakeholders, residents, and agencies, and then sent invitations using our virtual media, whether it's our website or social media, to invite public comment and review of these important documents. Next slide. All 3 documents are contained today in your agenda packet, including the public input summary. We did receive a couple of dozen different comments, and they ranged from specific project comments to large and broad themes. Wanted to provide a high-level summary of the feedback we did receive. Certainly, recognition of the fast growth this region continues to experience and the need for continued investment in our transportation program. There was notable support specifically for the included and funded I-10 Jackrabbit Trail Traffic Interchange project that was included in the approved investment plan, supported by continuation of the extension of Proposition 400. Support and for the continued expansion of investments in alternative modes, notably transit and active transportation. This is a theme we've heard throughout our planning process, noting that these kinds of investments help to positively support outcomes and safety as well as public health. And then finally, there's an increased interest in environmental sustainability and recognition that transportation and land use choices certainly impact the environment. Next slide. Next steps, next slide. We are concluding this phase of our work while the plan development process is now completed. We now move into the political side of this work, working with the legislature early next year to enable a placement on Maricopa County ballots next November 2022 for a 25-year extension of the dedicated half-cent sales tax first established in this region back in 1985. Next slide. And while our focus is on that side, we are continuing to provide more information and educational documents. We'll continue to do this winter and into next year as we move from the plan development process now to the plan education and information process. We'll be continuing to use our website as a forum to educate folks about what's included in the plan and what we intend to do with this continued investment. Next slide. Wanted to take just a moment with Management Committee today to acknowledge the breadth and scope of work really attributed to you and specifically to the Management Committee work group. Next slide. 2 years ago, Management Committee formed a work group comprised of those who volunteered or perhaps were voluntold to serve with us and roll up your sleeves to better understand the variety of technical elements to be considered in the plan development. Over the course of the last 2 years, members of the work group became transportation experts. Want to particularly acknowledge Mr. Cross and Ms. Cairns for your leadership over the last 2 years, and acknowledge your own staff's work to meet with us, spending many hours better reviewing information and your commitment to learning a lot of the technical details and choices that we had in developing both of these documents. Next slide. This morning, I had a chance to go back and review the composition of work over the last 18 months. This group in particular, and really the territory of which was covered. Really want to extend our appreciation on behalf of Eric Anderson and all of MAG's staff for the commitment of Management Committee and particularly of the work group for your dedication in reviewing a considerable amount of content, working in partnership with us to ensure our success and to ensure our policymakers are ready to make really difficult decisions, culminating in the decisions this summer. The breadth and scope of work started with helping to develop our call for projects process, reviewing of the history, implementation, and lessons learned from Proposition 400, helping to establish those goals, vision for our future, helping to review and inform the performance-based evaluation process, identifying those criteria, helping to set weights for those criteria, reviewing our revenue projections, reviewing project cost estimates, and then just a myriad of different technical memos on specific topics that range a gamut of transportation issues. By my count, 16 or so meetings of the work group with us, and your commitment in reviewing at least a couple of dozen technical memorandums, some in several hundred pages in length. And so I simply wanted to take this moment to thank you, thank your staff for rolling up your sleeves alongside us and committing to become better stewards and understanding the technical aspects associated with the transportation plan development, really for generations to come. Next slide. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I am pleased and honored to present to you for action today recommended approval of the draft Momentum 2050 MAG Regional Transportation Plan and errata sheet changes, the draft fiscal year 2022 through 2025 MAG Transportation Improvement Program and errata sheet changes, contingent on a finding of conformity and recommended acceptance of the public input report. We stand ready to answer any questions.
Very good. Thank you, Audra. Are there any questions from membership?
Mr. Chair, this is Roger.
Go ahead.
Yes, just not a question, just a comment. Wanted to thank Audra and Eric and John and the whole MAG staff for getting us through this process. A lot of complications. Not everyone's totally happy, but I think they were always open to suggestions and following up on ideas that we had. And so just want to thank the MAG staff for getting us here. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Hearing none, this item is on the agenda to recommend approval. And rather than restating the action item, because it's slightly different in my screen than what's up on the last slide here, I think it sounds like, Audra, that this is the language you would specifically like to have the motion encompass. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So at that point, then I'll entertain a motion.
I'd love to make the motion. This is Julie and Goodyear again.
Thank you, Julie. Do I have a second?
Second by Chris Brady.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve agenda item number 6 with the specific language as you can see that's on the screen. I'll go ahead and read it. Approval of the draft Momentum 2050 MAG Regional Transportation Plan and errata sheet changes and the draft fiscal year 2022 to 2025 MAG Transportation Improvement Program and errata sheet changes contingent on a finding of conformity and recommended acceptance of the public input report. We have a motion and a second for that. We'll go ahead and have staff take the roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Management Committee. I will go down the list of members by member agency. Please unmute and indicate how you vote. Bryant Powell.
Aye.
Thank you. Roger Klingler.
Aye.
Thank you. Gary Neese.
Aye.
Thank you. Josh Wright.
Aye.
Thank you. Brent Billingsley.
Aye.
Thank you. Grady Miller.
Aye.
Thank you. Rob Bohr.
Aye.
Thank you. Ryan Lee.
Aye.
Thank you. Julie Cairns.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeff Kulaga.
Aye.
Thank you. Joy Rich.
Aye.
Thank you. Chris Brady.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeff Tyne.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeff Barton.
Aye.
Thank you. Heather Wilkie.
Aye.
Thank you. Alexis Tamarin Kinsey.
Aye.
Thank you. Jennifer Jack.
Aye.
Thank you. Mike Frazier.
Aye.
Thank you. Reyes Medrano.
Aye.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Thank you. Is there anyone that I missed?
Jody Rooney votes aye. Thank you.
Yes, this is Matthew Williams, City of Litchfield Park. I vote aye as well.
Thank you. Thank you both. The motion carries.
Very good. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 7, the Regional Homeless Action Plan, presented by MAG Deputy Executive Director Amy St. Peter and MAG Regional Homeless Project Manager TJ Reed.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, thank you very much for this opportunity again to present Pathways Home, the Regional Homelessness Action Plan for local and tribal governments. This item is offered for action after an intensive year of outreach, research, and most importantly, listening. It's important to note again that every community enters this work from a different place, marked by varying levels of access to resources, different kinds of needs, and different perspectives. Some, candidly, may want more from this plan, and some others may also want less. What we're doing, though, together through this starting point, through this regional action plan, is creating a framework. Details will follow, adjustments may follow as well. But through this all, we will continue working very closely with you to ensure that we're taking the best path forward for all local and tribal governments in the region. By using this plan as a starting point, we are coming together and will be moving forward together, each contributing in ways that resonate with their capacity. We share the priority of addressing homelessness together regionally. This does not mean that we're all doing the same things. It does mean that we're all working together with a shared purpose of reducing homelessness and ensuring that people can get help no matter where they are in the region. We did not reach this day lightly, nor did we reach this day without some hard conversations, and some may come to follow still. But the ability to hear and to address and to fully integrate these very different perspectives, all of this has made the plan stronger and more relevant than it would have been otherwise. We want to thank you for staying in this conversation, offering your candid, constructive feedback, and most importantly, for your continued partnership as we move forward. Next slide, please. So it takes a lot of different perspectives and participation from throughout the region to create a quality regional plan. We're indebted to you and to your staff, to your elected officials, for offering your feedback throughout this process. This action plan was built on the foundation of this communication and the success of the implementation plan will be supported by continuing this conversation with you. We want to give special thanks to the Regional Homelessness Coordination Team. Your staff were instrumental in helping to shape this action plan and to identify the regional action steps. We want to give thanks as well to community partners such as the Regional Collaborative on Homelessness, who continues to support us throughout all of these efforts. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge our team here at MAG. The homelessness planning team is extremely talented and is very eager to serve you. We were fortunate to have the support of our regional analytics team, our policy team, with additional support from IT, communications, and fiscal. We're grateful to work alongside all of you. Next slide, please. This action plan then was built on these three pillars. We offered these to you for information and discussion last month. We heard your feedback. We received additional feedback during the regional council meetings. The plan that you have before you today is reflective of all of these changes that have been offered to date. We've made these revisions and we'll be offering a summary of these. Next slide, please. The regional action plan itself and these changes really focus on regional coordination and what is needed to support this regional coordination. We've received feedback in a few areas. These don't represent major policy shifts. They do represent some clarifications. In particular, most recently, we've received word that there's interest in accelerating the public involvement campaign, the public education campaign. So we've already reached out to your PIOs, and we hope to hear from others still. If you are wanting to be involved in these efforts, please do let us know. We've reached out just to a few communities to gauge interest. We're hearing resoundingly that people are wanting to move forward. So if your staff would like to be involved, please reach out. There are all of our meetings with you and with your mayors, particularly during the 26 community meetings that have been held to date. This is a summary of what we've heard. We've heard considerable discussion about the regional resources. We've offered these clarifications in the latest iteration of the action plan. For example, we've clarified that the letters of commitment would be requested in January after additional cost data has been provided. TJ will speak a little bit more to that analysis in just a moment. The purpose of collecting the letters of commitment are twofold. One is to be able to assist us in assessing what funding needs may remain in terms of the regional action plan. So we'll be looking at what's needed and what's available. What is still needed, we'll be seeking out support from other sources such as foundations as well as the federal government, just to name a few. We are working very closely also with the Arizona Department of Housing to convene funders in this space to make sure that we're maximizing and utilizing our resources wisely. The second purpose for collecting the letters of commitment is so that we can share this information, and sharing this information that enables us to thank you for the contributions that you're making, financial and or in kind, to these regional resources. It also helps to inspire communities as they learn what other communities are doing. That may help to give them ideas for what they can do as well as they're furthering their support of these regional efforts. Next slide, please. The second area of revisions is focused on data. During the regional council meeting last month, we received a request to add data, particularly related to older adults and veterans and the impact of the evictions. We've added that data as well as some trend data about youth who are experiencing homelessness as well. Ongoing tools will continue to make these data available, particularly Hand Up. That will continue to be a resource to you for your local and regional planning and to assist communities as they assess the needs and the opportunities within their own areas to be able to identify where they might like to site additional housing support services and shelter. While we've collected a tremendous amount of data and continue to do so, some of those efforts are underway, specifically in regards to that cost data. So at this point now, I'd like to introduce TJ Reed to help talk us through that cost data and to be able to illustrate what some of the next steps could be, pending your support and your guidance. Next slide, please. TJ, the floor is yours. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Amy. Mr. Chair and members of the committee, as this slide shows, we're talking about the costs of the plan. And so one of the feedback items was that we break down all 13 of the action steps into kind of statuses of funding. And so for this, you'll see on this slide, those that are fully funded and those that are not in need of additional funding. And so on the left, you'll see the coordinated entry assessment, access to rental units, and eviction prevention. And we want to call out and thank the City of Phoenix and Maricopa County for specifically funding these items. These are funded and also underway. These 3 additional on the right-hand side do not require additional funding and can be implemented within the current capacity of MAG staff and the region. Next slide, please. And so on this slide, you'll see those that are partially funded and those that are in need of funding. And so on the partially funded side, you'll see that there's data assessment and temporary housing. The data assessment, we have worked with 2 local foundations who are interested in supporting this effort to at least at minimal a partial funding of this project. And we're excited about that. On temporary and permanent housing, we are compiling an inventory of housing units, and you may have seen emails from myself already trying to gather information about new units that are coming up. This is to identify the gaps and the costs then associated with this. As we've talked about many times, the cost is not going to solely rely on investments from local and tribal governments. That is what we're here to do, is to convene regional, federal, and private foundations and partners to support in bridging those gaps. A couple of examples of that we've seen thus far is Maricopa County has put out an RFP for temporary housing, and that is to support the building up of shelter within the region. In addition, the city of Phoenix had partnered with Mercy Care in the past. And one of the ways in that partnership where they were able to bridge funding and split costs is that the city of Phoenix worked to pay for the actual development of the buildings, and Mercy Care was able to pay for the supportive services and the costs of care once in that. And there are other partners associated with that, like nonprofit partners. And so that's just one emphasis that we want to put, especially on the temporary and permanent housing side, is that there are a lot of different partners at play here that we have been really excited to have conversations with and look forward to continuing those to really bridge and get us to where we need to be, where we're all leveraging our strengths and what we have to be able to push things forward. It is important that we see other partners as well, such as Access, such as the Department of Housing, and we've had conversations with those as well. We have been meeting with the Arizona Department of Housing in addition to convene funders and coordinate activities. We know this is not just on your side as well. Other funders, we want to collaborate and make sure that we are using data to drive our decisions and to coordinate what we are funding, so we're not funding the same type of things differently or having mismatches in the way that we're pushing forward on these regional activities. Next slide, please. And so a part of the next steps here, you'll see, and then next slide, please. Here are all the next steps for this draft action plan. This item is offered today for your vote. We have worked really hard to hear, address, and integrate your priorities, perspectives, and opinions throughout this process. This plan will also be shared for a vote this month at the Maricopa Regional Continuum of Care, who have lent their expertise and provided a lot of insights based on the work that they do. Next month, we will be hosting a special session with the Regional Council to vote on this plan as well. We are excited to offer the results of the activities that they have catalyzed 1 year ago. Moving forward, we will really focus on continuing to listen and adjust and work closely with you to implement this plan upon approval. This includes launching the remaining activities not already underway, finalizing the assessment of costs, and offering data prior to requesting letters of commitment from all of you. Next slide, please. And here, as always, is my information and Amy's. And again, I don't think Amy or I could say it enough, but we want to thank you so much for your endless amount of time that you've put into this with us, and the support that you have really lended to putting this plan together and making it something that, like Amy said, is maybe not exactly what any of us wanted, but we worked together to provide something that is reflective of our regional priorities and goals. So that concludes our presentation, and we are available for any feedback or questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Amy, and thank you, TJ. Are there any questions from membership?
Andrew, I have a few questions. This is Chris.
Okay, go ahead.
Amy, I don't know who's controlling the PowerPoint. Can we go back to the first slide that TJ was going over? Okay, yeah.
This one, Chris?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you. What does that mean that access to rental units and eviction prevention is fully funded? Please explain that to me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Brady, and members of the committee. Those two action steps respond very specifically to projects that are underway through Maricopa County. Maricopa County has fully funded those two efforts, and more detail on each of those is available in the action plan. We recognize that there are many eviction prevention programs and that much more access is needed for rental units. The two activities that are specifically cited, though, are fully funded through Maricopa County.
Okay, so it's not suggesting that all eviction prevention, that's fully funded throughout the whole region, just in a specific program?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, okay, all right. Then going back, I think to the rest of the plan, the only thought I had was, I appreciate the work that's gone into this and trying to pull all this together from different, all the different communities. I think the thing I'm kind of struggling with a little bit is you have a plan that you kind of allow for involvement to happen in a variety of different ways, including in-kind contributions. But then you also have more specific outcomes that you're looking for, whether it's permanent housing or temporary housing. And I guess my thought is, I think, the region, everyone will benefit that if we're going to allow for in-kind contributions to be counted, to be shown as a contribution, it seems like it's more than just writing a letter and saying, hey, I'm doing in-kind service, I've got staff working on a project, but it needs to be something that's driving a outcome that's in this plan. It can't just be something that we as a community choose, that we want to say we believe is making a difference if it doesn't relate to one of these specific goals. I think there needs to be an expectation that if we're going to have the discretion to kind of determine our type of funding, how we're going to count it, it still needs to relate to something in this plan and showing a measurable outcome. So that would be my only comment on that. But thank you for the work.
Thank you, Mr. Brady. And Mr. Chairman, Mr. Brady, members of the committee, that is exactly correct. Particularly, we do have some detail right now in the plan. We'll be offering additional detail and clarification as needed when we issue the request for letters of commitment. But the idea is that the letters of commitment would reflect the financial and/or in-kind contributions that are being offered directly in support of this plan and in alignment with this plan. And I'm very happy to work with communities to help them identify what those activities could be. And we have been working with communities already and offering ideas for what they could do in support of these regional efforts at that local level. So that's very much in alignment with the way that the letters of commitment are described in the plan right now. But we're happy to provide additional clarification as this is implemented. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Chris. Are there other questions from membership?
Hey, Andrew, this is Bryant.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to MAG staff and Amy, and thank you so much for working together to bring us to this point. I think this is a huge, great first step as a region to start approaching this very difficult situation that I believe is going to only get tougher. And that it will work towards being very difficult to understand and very difficult to solve individually. And I've studied other regions in the country, and I really feel like that we can really work as a region as we're implementing this plan to avoid what's happened in other places. I do hope that we can get to a place that we are stretching further than where we are just saying as a city ourselves that we're only going to present a letter in a few weeks or a few months that say, hey, this is what our in-kind is. If we don't stretch harder, if we don't lengthen our stride, if we don't do more, then I think we'll fall short. And these are our fellow citizens. This is, to me, so important that we can do more. And I'm really glad that, I know we work together closely with some of our neighbors, and I'm so grateful for Chandler and Tempe and Mesa helping us out, learning, because we have a significant a proportion, even though the number is small in Apache Junction, but a lot of folks who struggle. And I just think and we're in Pinal County, and we have a little bit different situation there, but a framework that we can all work from, will assist. So thank you, Mag, for that. But I do think we've got a ways to go, Andrew.
Thanks, Bryant. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Hearing none, this item is on the agenda to recommend approval of Pathways Home, the Regional Homeless Action Plan for local and tribal governments. Do I have a motion?
Andrews, Chris, I make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the item number 7 from Chris Brady. Do we have a second?
This is Grady. I second the motion.
Very good. Thank you, Grady. So we have a motion and a second to approve. Let's go ahead and take the roll call vote. Right, first, let me ask, is there discussion of the motion? Okay. Hearing no request for discussion, let's go ahead and take the roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Management Committee. I will go down the list of members by member agency. Please unmute and indicate how you vote. Bryant Powell.
Yes.
Thank you. Roger Klingler.
Aye.
Thank you. Gary Neese.
Aye.
Thank you. Josh Wright.
Aye.
Thank you. Brent Billingsley.
Aye.
Thank you. Grady Miller.
Aye.
Thank you. Rob Bohr.
Aye.
Thank you. Ryan Lee.
Aye.
Thank you. Julie Cairns.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeff Kulaga.
Aye.
Thank you. Matthew Williams.
Aye.
Thank you. Joy Rich.
Aye.
Thank you. Chris Brady.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeff Tyne.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeff Barton.
Aye.
Thank you. Heather Wilkie.
Aye.
Thank you. Alexis Tamarin Kinsey.
Aye.
Thank you. Jennifer Jack.
Aye.
Thank you. Mike Frazier.
Aye.
Thank you. Reyes Medrano.
Aye.
Thank you. Jody Rooney.
While supportive, I will need to abstain per the MAG operating policies and procedures this time. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Thank you. Is there anyone that I missed? Thank you. The motion carries.
Thank you. My appreciation again to MAG staff for all the work they've done and on item number 7. Much appreciated. We will now move on to agenda item number 8, a legislative update. MAG Policy and Government Relations Director Nathan Pryor will give this report.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Management Committee. 2 items of note today. First, related to item number 6 from Ms. Kester Thomas on RTP development. Of course, the next step in this is the enabling legislation effort. That is under review right now by Legislative Council, the draft proposed enabling legislation. We're looking to share this pending their review. Meanwhile, there are ongoing discussions with legislators and legislative leadership. Those have been going well. And of course, we have ongoing discussions with our business community, which are critically important to this effort. We're looking to member agencies to reach out to your respective legislators and pressing on them the importance of this enabling legislation, continuing with the half-cent sales tax for the next 25 years. So more to come on that, obviously. The other item of note is the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. So it's the federal infrastructure bill, which was passed by the House on Friday. That is still pending signage by the president, anticipating that next week. Just by way of review, the infrastructure bill has $1.2 trillion for infrastructure investment, historic levels. About 550 billion of this is new spending, half of that to U.S. Department of Transportation. And of course, of note, this is a 5-year surface transportation reauthorization as well. Just some high-level numbers for Arizona, seeing about $5 billion via federal aid highway apportionment programs to the state over 5 years. Also about 884 million for public transportation over 5 years as well. So this money is going to come down via formula, discretionary, and some new programs. Really looking to guidance from USDOT and the implementation rollout of these programs and how the funding is going to go. Again, historic levels of proposed spending here. It'll be interesting to see how USDOT, Federal Highway, Federal Transit Administration will roll this out. So we will be monitoring that. We look to give a more comprehensive look at the infrastructure bill and what it means for the state and region during the January committee cycle. So with MAG staff is already digging into the bill and looking at the impact for the region. Just one item of note, these two issues are interconnected. So enabling legislation as it relates to the infrastructure bill, successful passage of the Prop 400 extension enabling legislation, that ensures continuity in our programming of funding. So again, really hoping for you all, member agencies, to be impressing upon this of members of the legislature, that enabling legislation, passage thereof, and of course, going to the voters in 2022 really helps us program these federal funds and then make sure they're going to the right places. So more to come on that, Mr. Chairman. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Nathan. Are there any questions from the committee? Okay, hearing none, this item is on the agenda for information and discussion only. So we will go ahead and close item 8 and move to item 9. Are there any requests by a management committee member for an item on a future agenda? Okay, hearing none, item 10, are there any comments or announcements from membership? Okay, hearing no comments or announcements, business is now concluded and the meeting